So we all know one of those people. You know one, I know one, we all know one. Thanks to the miracles of modern science, they're everywhere. You didn't used to meet so many of them because people used to die a lot more often, but doctors have gotten so smart these days they can cure just about anything but stupid, and I'm walking proof of that for sure. You may not believe me right now, but you will before long. What I'm talking about right now is those people who suffer some sort of bizarre medical experience, some catastrophe, survive it despite overwhelming odds, and defy all medical logic, and then never shut up about it. They're annoying. I'm one of them. Nice to meet you. I've talked about it so much for so long that the surgeon who quite literally saved my life almost certainly now regrets it. Seriously, y'all, he sent me a letter. It sounded more like a World War II telegram, though. Dear Joni, stop. Please, stop. Please, please, stop, stop. Now, here's the backstory. I got a syndrome. Went into the hospital with nothing but a fairly obvious weight problem that caused, unsurprisingly, some knee trouble, and I needed a routine orthopedic surgery. Everything was fine until I experienced the syndrome. And it was a bad syndrome. In case you don't know it, there's no such thing as a good syndrome. Think about it. Ever heard of the dewy skinned syndrome, or maybe the my legs can't possibly get any longer and thinner syndrome? Well, of course you haven't. My particular syndrome had only been experienced by about 27 people since 1958, and 98% of them were African American Jewish gentlemen in their late 70s. It's no wonder I got that particular syndrome, because I have so much in common with that sector of the human race. I spent more than 2 months in 3 different hospitals in 2 different counties, 5 days in a coma, and I lost 13 ounces. I came home in a wheelchair strapped to hooks on the interior walls of a non-emergency transport vehicle. I looked like Hannibal Lecter on estrogen with a bad haircut, but I was grateful to be alive. And you know how some people take an experience like that and channel it into great works, like they promise to find a cure for diabetes or stop child abuse? Well, I promised to eat yogurt. I also told my life-saving doctor that I wanted to express my gratitude to him by either becoming his concubine or baking him a blueberry cobbler, but he never directly responded to my offer. I think he may have developed a syndrome of his own. It must have been Tourette's or something, because from then on, every time I went in for a checkup, his face would turn red, he'd start twitching, and he would spontaneously screech, "Blueberries, blueberries." I'm not sure what impact that's had on his career. Now, I'm from a small town, and it's easy to be famous in a small town. Everybody knows that. I'm like the Carp of Calhoun. I got myself a little show called The Joni Harbin Show, and they even made t-shirts that said The Joni Harbin Show. And I got to thinking I was pretty hot stuff, because how many people do you know that have their own t-shirt? Not many, right? And then I saw somebody wearing one, and it was a big, ugly fat man in a hardware store, and he had gotten ketchup all over it. Hurt my pride, I'm not gonna lie. I thought I was hot stuff until I found out that there were multiple supper clubs in my hometown organized by close personal friends of mine, and I had been excluded from every single one of them. Well, I was crushed because, to be honest, I really like supper. It's one of my 3 favorite meals. So I was lamenting my fate, sharing my pain with my husband, and I said, "Ed, I just don't understand why my friends will spend $15 or $20 to come hear me talk in the theater, but won't invite me to dinner." And he said, "Joni, I reckon they figure they can't feed you for that amount." So there's another mystery solved. I love that man, but if I'd known at that moment how to throw a syndrome on him, he'd have been in jeopardy. So we have 2 daughters, Caitlin and Olivia, but I'm not supposed to tell you their names. Both of them are UGA graduates, go dogs. One majored in education and one majored in risk management. They are proof of mercy and grace in my life, because if I had gotten the kids I deserved, they'd be wearing powder blue eyeshadow and using metal detectors to make a living. Anyway, risk management changed my daughter and some of her friends who joined her in that career pursuit. These young people grew up together, and many of them spent a great deal of time at my home as children. I have watched them jump from the limbs of weak trees onto a trampoline that they had dragged under that tree without permission from their parents. I know for a fact they climbed out the second floor windows to sit on the roof and talk about bad, really bad boys. I have watched them pop wheelies on go-karts without helmets. And a couple months after graduation, Olivia had found herself a cute little rental house and had a party. And you never saw such a careful group of young adults. These same wild children had grown into the most cautious young adults I'd ever seen. They were terribly concerned about the fact that there was no railing on the step. They were careful, there's no railing on this step. There's 6 of them. It's a dangerous terrain. Well, then they navigated their way into the house where they were horrified to discover that Olivia was cooking the sausage for the Rotel dip on an open flame. Stand back, y'all, there's an open flame. They were pouring beverages into Yeti cups that they insisted must have lids in case a toxic insect flew down into the Yeti cup and then came out and stung them in their mouth. Now, I'm a pretty good parent. I consider myself to be a responsible human being, but you can only take so much carefulness in such a small group of young adults. By the end of the night, I was wanting to just jerk them up, slap them around, and say, somebody get in that room and have irresponsible sex. Thank y'all for coming. It's nice to meet you. Bye-bye.